Plaza Premium Automobile Studios, powering your drive with 10 brands and 20 locations. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Kathy Barnette on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. You can't stop me!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Kathy Barnette show. I am your host, Kathy Barnette, and I'm just going to jump right into it because I want to use every minute of my time squeezing as much information as I possibly can from my guest, James Lindsay. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Thank you, James, for being on. James is an American-born author, mathematician, and professional troublemaker, in his own words. Dr. James Lindsay has written 6 books spanning a range of subjects, including religion, the philosophy of science, and postmodern theory. He is a leading expert on critical race theory, which leads him to reject it completely. He is the founder of New Discourses and currently promoting his new book, Cynical Theories: How Activist Scholarship Made Everything About Race, Gender, and Identity, and Why This Harms Everybody, which is currently being translated in more than 15 languages. I was saying to you right before we started the show, guys, you can go to, what is the website, James, for this heavy writing that I'm holding here?
It's on my website, which is called newdiscourses.com, and it's called something to do with the MAGA Civil War. So if you type that in the search bar, MAGA Civil War, you'll find it.
Yes. And guys, let me tell you something. It is long, but it is, I mean, you did it so well, James. It reads so easily. It's very easy to read. It just kind of pulls you in and in and in. I am going to continue reading this. I got this earlier this week from you. But, okay, so I started reading first couple of pages, and then I skipped all the way to section 4 so I could see how it ends. Mm-hmm. And now I'm back to reading the first section again. And most of us out here, we see something is going on. You asked a question, what in the hell is going on here? We see that in the world of MAGA, there is something going on. But what I assessed very early on is that it really doesn't have anything to do with me initially. Like, that's what I was thinking, right? Like, this seems like a war among those in who you call the elite MAGA. And it really has nothing to do with those of us in MAGA who are on the ground doing all of the heavy lifting, the people who actually got Donald Trump elected 3 times, right? Like, everything that we're seeing between Candace and Tucker and Nick and Tim Pool and this person really has nothing to do with us. They're not really talking to me, is how I initially looked at it. Because, you know, what they're talking about, I don't care. I'm down here trying to get boys out of girls' sports and trying to keep our borders secure. And now, after a couple of months, because this really just started happening once Donald Trump got in office. Now, after a couple of months, 9 or 10 months of this, I'm beginning to like say, wait a minute, this seems like a much bigger threat to MAGA, to me and my family than I first considered. I'm going to toss it to you.
Yeah, I mean, so I wrote that essay back in May trying to tell people what I thought was starting to happen within MAGA. And like you said, I kind of have broken MAGA up into 3 different pieces so that people can understand. I say that you kind of got this elite layer, and like people say, well, who are the elites? And well, that's the people on the shows. That's, you know, they got their big, fancy, highfalutin shows. They're at the cocktail parties. They're at the galas. That's the elite crowd. And then you've got what I would put you and me in is middle MAGA. We're the ones that are breaking our backs, doing all the work, trying, like you said, to get boys out of girls' sports, get the border secure, get the political orientation lined up, get the voters to show up to the polls, which we just saw they did not do in Miami. And, you know, the hard work of actually doing political organizing, political activity. And then you've got what I call normie MAGA, and that's just your, you know, rank and file Republican Party members. They support President Trump. They probably have their favorite influencers they listen to, and so on. And what I said is that there is a coup afoot. There is an attempt to take over the direction of the Republican Party, because we all know, you know, Trump is in his last term. He's supposed to be able to serve in office. So there's going to be a time coming in the future when the Republican Party's still going to exist, and MAGA is still going to probably exist. And there's a fight over what its direction is going to be. Is it going to be, I think there's three directions. Is it going to be establishment Republican? Is it going to kind of revert to form? Is it going to stay MAGA? Is it going to stay with this kind of, pro-America movement that we've all been building for the last 10 years with the direction of President Trump? Or is it going to veer off into this new radical right, Pat Buchanan inspired, sometimes, I don't know what to call it except woke right, neo-Nazi stuff is dipping in there, anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, the whole 9 yards of everything the left accused us of that we said we weren't, and now they're trying to live up to all those things. Which one of these three paths are we going to take? And I think that's the name of the fight, and that this radical contingent that, like you said, wasn't talking to us, they were talking amongst themselves, has more or less in the past year launched their campaign to take over the future. The radical group, the post-liberals they call themselves, or the woke right, have launched their bid to take over the direction of the future of the Republican Party, while all of us were too busy doing the hard work of politics and whatever else and organizing to be able to fool with all their silliness that they were putting on their fancy shows and running as kind of information operations against MAGA from within.
And it kind of just exploded onto the scenes. It wasn't there, and then all of a sudden, it's there, right? I mean, we love Tucker, and then all of a sudden, not so much. One moment, Candace Owens is acting like she got some sense, and then the next moment, who knows what's going on in the mind of this woman. And you just see it, right? And I'm assuming that what triggered it is Trump actually winning. Mm-hmm. So Trump wins, Trump gets in office. And if you look at Donald Trump's administration, I've said this for some time now, you would be hard pressed to find an actual conservative MAGA in the bunch. It's a bunch of, it's as if they worked immediately. They moved swiftly to sanitize MAGA, that it doesn't really mean what we have always thought it meant, right? Conservative, and really biblically conservative, but really conservative in the view of how we want our country to be ran. And all of a sudden he gets in office, and now they just worked really hard to sanitize it. It doesn't really feel like MAGA.
No, I agree. I've heard a whole bunch of people say out there that they voted for Trump 45 and they got Bernie Sanders, actually. And so there's been an attempt to, I think, isolate President Trump from fully understanding what's going on, to try to implement a radical agenda. A lot of that's coming through, I think, the vice president's office. His economic team is called American Moment. It seems to be tied up in a lot of these things. But this whole other segment, these influencers thinking they run the world and they run Trump and they run the White House, have put a ton of pressure on that apparatus that's, I think, led it into a dark direction that the American people in MAGA were not looking forward to.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, you're listening to the Kathy Barnette Show. I have my guest, James Lindsay, on with me. I'll be right back on the other side. James Lindsay, an American-born author, mathematician, and professional troublemaker, and you're going to find out why in a few moments. He has written 6 books spanning a wide range of different things. His current book is being translated into 15 different languages. Okay, troublemaker. Let's get into some trouble, because one, there's a lot of terms. That's the first thing you run into when you're out there in Twitterdom, is that everyone is just, all of a sudden we have this whole new vocabulary, which again made me think the left, because they always can't, cisgender, right? I can't just say male or female, straight or gay. I had to say cis. Okay. And all of a sudden you see the same thing happening over here on the right. We're coming up with new vocabulary. So let's put some definition behind it. In the first paragraph of your page, you throw out several of them. Woke right. You have woke right elites. You make a distinction between conservatives and Christians, Christian nationalism. Take any of that and let's put some definition behind it.
Yeah, I think the most important one to talk about is definitely this concept of woke right. And I think you just kind of captured it when you said, you see all this new terminology coming up. Heritage Americans is another one you run into. all of a sudden you start getting that feeling like the left, right? They came up with all these funny words, and you start to see this focus on identity politics, and you start to see this Machiavellian behavior where they get to act bad and they hold you to your feet to the fire for anything you ever said 10 years ago. They try to push you out of the conversation, cancel you, whatever it is, bully you, do swarming activity on social media. But a lot of it comes back to that kind of identity politics. But then the biggest thing that makes woke, and so why people ask me all the time, why do you call these people woke right? Well, first of all, they at least claim to be on the right. They describe themselves as right wing. They don't believe the same things about sexuality and race and so on that the left believes. So they call themselves right wing, but I think they're woke. And what makes them woke is woke can be kind of summarized in terms of how it believes about knowledge and how it believes about power. And so the woke belief about knowledge is that marginalized knowledge is probably more true because some power structure is trying to marginalize those beliefs. They don't want people to believe this. They don't want people to hear this, right? They call it marginalized knowledges, other ways of knowing. And the idea is that if you favor those, you're probably doing something woke. If you think it's more likely that something's true because they don't want you to believe it, you might be woke. Okay, and so this is where you see these guys saying, well, I'm just asking questions.
That sounds like Candace Owens. What are you talking about?
It's Candace Owens, it's Tucker Carlson. This is all they do.
Like,
You're
they're just
not allowed
asking
to say
questions,
this.
but they're just asking questions.
Yeah,
that
just
no one is
asking
really
questions.
asking. Like, no one else is asking those questions, but they're just asking questions.
Right, and then they say you're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to talk about this. It's the same stuff that we heard from BLM. Nobody wants to talk about racism. We need to have an honest conversation about racism. They didn't want to have an honest conversation. They wanted to have a BLM conversation, which was very dishonest. But they leveraged it this way against us. You're not allowed to bring this up because the white people get mad. And so they leveraged it. Same thing's happening here. And that's what it really means to be woke. It's a style of behavior. The relationship to power is they believe somebody else has it illegitimately and that they deserve it, so they're going to take it. And that is the exact same covetous relationship to power that we see with people, again, like Candace and Tucker and all of these guys, these other guys at the Blaze, like R.N. McIntyre, that he goes by, it's his pseudonym, he goes by that name, always talking about how the power that we have is completely illegitimate, even with President Trump, controlled by foreign influences. Maybe it's Jews, maybe it's Israel, maybe it's, whatever. And so it's all totally illegitimate, and that they deserve to be in power instead. It's the same thing that the left does with relationship to power. So I called these people woke right because this is how they believe power works and knowledge work in society.
Except with the left, it's fake, but they have the facade of, we recognize, we're aware of the world and the systems of the world, and we're also aware of the power structure that shapes this system of the world. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do is dismantle that power structure so that we can take over the world and make it into a better place for you people, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we know that's not the case, but at least they seem to have this facade of, we're doing this so that we can help you. Mm-hmm. Whereas on the right, when I look at it, they recognize the world as it is, and they recognize the different power structures. They want to dismantle those power structures, but not so much for you, but so that they can get more clicks and get a bigger platform. It seems so the right seems to do away with the facade altogether and say, no, it's really about me, making my show bigger, making my platform bigger. I want more power.
Yeah, the difference between right and left here is that the left is, to use another fancy term, but a technical word, is radically egalitarian. It's supposed to be, we know it's a lie, but what they say is that they're doing it for the people, for everybody, right? And so everybody is going to be equal. Everybody's going to have equity. Everybody's going to have it fair. There's not going to be any injustice. But on the right, what they actually believe is something different, is that there are people who are more valid than other people, that are the rightful inheritors of a system and a nation. And those people should be the only ones getting the prize. So that's themselves every time. It's never somebody else. And so this is where you end up them saying, our problem has been that the left made us too tolerant, so now we're going to be intolerant. The left has said that we have to think about others, so we're going to think about ourselves. And so that there's an inversion there. It is actually opposite. The facade on the left is more palatable, which makes this stuff on the right, once it starts to get exposed, much more objectionable. And you can even see that if you look at their kind of most unpopular political positions. Scott Rasmussen just did a poll on this, really big poll, and on the left, the most unpopular position that they espouse is the transgender issue. Right. Especially with kids. And 17% of the population supports that issue, and 83% do not support it. But the most unpopular position that's held on this radical right is that Jews are the problem in society. And only 5% of the population supports that, and 95% of the population is against it. And so they're much more direct, much more unpopular, and they actually try to pretend that what they're doing is more, as the left called it, stunning and brave, for speaking truth to power by talking about things that are just completely out of bounds, like hating Jews, blaming Jews for every problem in society, saying that the reason that America can't be successful, as Nick Fuentes pointed out, is because all black people belong in jail. Just completely racist and sexist and terrible things that don't line up with the spirit of America, of American individualism, of the fact that we judge each other by the contents of characters, the quality of our merits, not the color of skin, not sexual orientation, not anything like that. We judge based on what are you able to do, which includes how do you behave in public, right? Your character has a lot to do with how you behave in public. So it's a complete rejection, just like the left has. The left is tearing down America and rejects it as a secretly fascist state, and these guys reject America and are trying to tear it down as a secretly communist state.
And one of the ideas you present throughout is that the thought is, if I can't have it, you can't have it either. And so if they, they being the elite MAGA, those who have captured the upper echelon of power, right? So these are the ones that are always at Mar-a-Lago and always at the ball and the gala, and they just have such a great time. Everything is so well for them, right? And for everyone. Their thought is that if we can't capture the entire MAGA political structure, then we will destroy it. And it began to shift from, it's just these people up there fighting, right? The rhinos are, there's an Indian proverb, when elephants fight, the grass get trampled. But at the beginning of all of this that I saw, it was just the elephants fighting. Mm-hmm. And now what I'm watching is that the grass is getting trampled. The rest of us down here who are trying to live our lives, because it's very distracting, the things that they're saying. It is everything the left said we were. They are actually working very hard to present themselves. One of the first thing was, when Donald Trump won, all of a sudden it became cool to say the N-word again. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why Donald Trump wins? He wins because Black and Hispanics rise up in a larger number to vote for him. And what do we in the Republican Party do with that win? Oh, I know. Let's make saying the N-word cool again. And it's like, this is so obviously a psyop. This is a takeover, because I spent an exorbitant amount of time on the ground with the Republican Party and MAGA, and they're not behaving like this, right? Like, they're not talking about Macron's wife. They're not, giving very hard interviews to Senator Ted Cruz, which I applauded, but then doing baseball interviews with Nick Fuentes, like making him look more palatable.
Yep. So this comes straight out of the Communist Manifesto, okay? So the first paragraph of the first chapter of the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx lays out the story. And the idea is, he says that the whole of history, human history, is the conflict of two classes. So you got the oppressor versus oppressed, he says. He gives a bunch of examples. And he gives oppressor versus oppressed. And he says this fight always is happening, and it always ends in one of two ways. Either, he says, it ends in the revolutionary reconstitution of society at large, in other words, they take over, or it ends in the common ruin of the contending classes. In other words, either we get to take over or we destroy everything. And more than that, not only do they destroy everything, but it's somehow your fault when they break everything. And I think that that's exactly the model that's happening. They are a intolerant, radical splinter group that's trying to take over MAGA and the future Republican Party. And if they can't have it, they'll burn it down. And that's what we're actually living through right now. It's a psyop to take down MAGA from the inside, because they couldn't stop President Trump from the outside, no matter what they threw at him, including even a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, guys, you're listening to Kathy Barnette with my guest, James Lindsay. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. You are back with the Kathy Barnette Show with my guest, James Lindsay. And let's get right into it. I just want to do a quick recap. You said there are 3 tiers of MAGA. It's the elite MAGA, middle MAGA, and then normie MAGA. The elite MAGA, open up Instagram, whoever you see holding a champagne glass and a ball gown, that's probably elite MAGA. And then you have the middle MAGA, which will be me, which will be James. But James, I think you may have gotten booted out of the elite MAGA group, and now you're down here with us, people.
I'm back, baby.
I know you're back. And then you have the normies, and I saw that, right, when I was out there. I would have, I was labeling it as the Republican Party. There are 3 tiers in the Republican Party. You have the quote unquote elites, who have their hand firmly fixed on the grip of power and of the systems within the Republican Party. And then you have kind of like a cult. And then you have the people with common sense, the ones who voted for me, right? Like, these are the middle MAGA. They know what's going on. We want to get back to our lives, but we're not easily beguiled. And so I saw a little bit of that when I was looking at that. So, okay, so those are the 3 tiers of MAGA. Let's go to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let me just spend some time there, right? Because I don't believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is a part of the middle MAGA. I don't believe she is a victim of just trying to speak her truth and nobody wanted to hear it. I think she was a part of the elite MAGA, a part of the whole capturing of power. But I do believe she did something that got on the nerves of the elite MAGA group, and they kicked her out. And so her thought is, well, if I can't be a part of it, let me just tear the whole thing down. So I think that's what's going on. But you probably have a more up close view of it than me.
No, you might actually have the more up close view, but I think that's right. I think that she was actually operating within that splinter that was trying to pull MAGA in a different direction. And I think Trump caught wind of it and started to realize that she was not just working, in line with the MAGA agenda and for President Trump, as much as she's done for him in the past, to be completely fair, that something else had captured her attention, and she was going on a kind of, a diversionary direction. I think she was part of this woke right operation to tear MAGA down from the inside, and President Trump figured it out and called her out. And then, like you said, once the spell got broken, she's got nothing left to do but try to burn it all down. She's angry and is just going to take it out. So it's like I said before the break, Karl Marx said, you're either going to have a revolutionary reconstitution by the revolutionary class that takes over, or you're going to have the ruin of everything. They're going to burn everything down. And so I think that that's exactly what happened with her. She got caught trying to pull the operation, and she got called out for it, and now she's running a revenge mission halfway from the outside.
Yeah. So it is still very much of the elite mindset, is that if I can't have it, then you can't have it either. I'm going to destroy it. And maybe there's some benefit in that, for the rest of us, right? Like somebody putting a spotlight on what's actually happening within the elite crowd. I don't know. But that's my thought on Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is not a victim. Now, I believe she did a lot of good work for Donald Trump. But I believe, as you said, her attention has been diverted by something else, and you began to see her behaving in a way that wasn't quote unquote MAGA, conservative, being a little too close to certain people that MAGA will always do a side eye to. And now the elites have kicked her out. And so now she's like, well, I'm about to burn the whole building down. Now, let's talk about the tool of capture that the elites use, right? Because I saw this on the left during COVID. I saw people getting a jab when they didn't really want the jab because they did not want to be ostracized. They wanted to be able to go to the Christmas parties and to the operas. I remember when the jabs came out and they were issuing little vaccine cards. The left did a Facebook party where they were all at the party having a great time, and they were displaying their little vaccine cards, and they wanted the rest of us to feel like, oh, we're missing out. I want to be a part of that. And some people fell prey and took an experimental vaccine. And now their blood isn't so pure and they're having some issues right now, right? But I remember I remember watching the power of that, of wanting, it's so seductive. I want to be a part of the cool kids club. And that was enough to get people to inject not only themselves, but their very healthy children with an experimental vaccine. And now I'm watching, I've been watching for some time with the elite MAGA, and I can feel some of the pressure to not say certain things because I don't want to be ostracized, right? So because you want to be a part of the group and you don't want them to kick you out of the group. Talk to us about that seductive aspect of the tool. It's the main tool that they have to capture you.
Yeah, I called it, well, it's not my term. The term for that is elitist capture. So there's kind of two ways you can the elites, so to speak, can capture something, a movement. One is just called elite capture. It's a little bit confusing, but elite capture is basically where they just give people money, right? And then you have elitist capture where there's some vibe everybody has to go along with in order to fit in. And so that's what makes you part of the cool kids club, as you put it, I think, very correctly. And so, like you said, there are certain kinds of jokes you're supposed to make. You're certain people you don't criticize. You don't call Candace out. You don't call Tucker out. You don't say this. Or else what's going to happen is you're going to be put on the divisive list. You're going to be put on the list of people who's not going along with the current. You're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. And you don't get invited. Now, what I call the elite MAGA, a good definition for them actually would be people whose entire job seems to be going on each other's shows and promoting each other's shows. I don't think that they do anything but make shows and then promote each other's shows. So they can't get kicked out of the club because their whole livelihood depends on it. And that's why it works as a kind of capture specifically. It's not just a social pressure for them. It's not just wanting to be part of something. Now, I know I did a lot of work and I fell afoul of this because I opened my mouth about it. I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, and they very unceremoniously booted me out. And life goes on. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people saw that. A lot of people saw other people like Seth Dillon take a stand and get kicked out. And people don't want to lose their spot, so they're afraid to. And these guys whose main job it is to be on the show circuit with each other, well, they don't want to lose their seat at the table either. So they're willing to compromise. They're willing to come out. Tucker does something objectionable. They're come out and they defend Tucker no matter what it was because they want to still have the opportunity to get on Tucker Carlson's stage when he does one of those, tours. And so that capturing mechanism, they want to get invited to the White House gala. They want to get invited to the Christmas party, at Mar-a-Lago or whatever. That dynamic right there keeps them, just being very colorful about it, on the plantation of what they're supposed to be saying according to the agenda. So then you only need at that point a few people who are like the real elites who are setting the terms that everybody has to play by, and then everybody has to do what they say. Tucker Carlson's probably at that, close to that highest tier. So he says stuff and everybody has to kind of, march along like little ducks behind him, or else he'll turn around on his next show and say, I don't even know who Kathy Barnette is. what a loathsome person. You know,
That's literally what they said.
that's exactly what they
I
say.
was probably one of the first victims.
Yeah, I feel you.
Of this elite captor. All of a sudden, I spend 4 years on Fox News. I'm a paid writer for Fox News. And all of a sudden, I get too close to real power and they come out saying she could be a member of Black Lives Matter. Like, what?
Yep.
What are you talking about?
It's the
she
game.
doesn't like gay people. Like a tweet 10 years ago. And I, just for the record, I did not recant anything I said 10 years ago. And I will not, because I understood what was happening. So let me pivot. With Tucker, for example, with Candace Owens, for example, they are not in the White House. Donald Trump still has a very large platform and a lot of power and clout. Stephen Miller, if Donald Trump is being, ostracized or, not kept in the dark on some of these people's true motives, Stephen Miller, I would think, is not, and several others around him. So why is it that Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and some of the others are being able to just have so much of this clout?
Well, I think that there's kind of this dynamic going on where a lot of the people who work, President Trump's obviously not just the president, he's also very busy. But a lot of the people who work around power in D.C., a lot of the interns, a lot of the staffers, a lot of the people that fill those departments spend a lot of time online. They spend a lot of time in the conservative ecosystem, media ecosystem. And that alternative media, conservative media ecosystem is filled with these voices, these opinions, and these pressures. So it's not necessarily President Trump himself. All they have to do is keep him busy doing something else. And then, some of the higher officials, keep them busy on absolutely key policy points. And then they can take charge at the next rung down through delegated power to do all of this other stuff that they want to try to bring in. But most of this is still a cultural war. It's a cultural, it's like a culture war being launched on MAGA from within. It's not as much happening at the level of policy because it's clear President Trump doesn't go along with these things. And if he catches on, he's going to reject it.
Okay, guys, you're listening to the Kathy Barnette Show with my guest, James Lindsay. We're going to be back with the last segment. Hold on, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. You're listening to the Kathy Barnette Show with my guest, James Lindsay. He's an American-born author, mathematician, and professional troublemaker. His own words. Dr. James Lindsay has written 6 books spanning a range of subjects, including religion, the philosophy of science, and postmodern theory. He is a leading expert on critical race theory, has a new book out that is being translated into 15 different languages. The new book is called Cynical Theories, How Activist Scholarship Made Everything About Race, Gender, and Identity, and Why This Harms Everybody. Where can people find you, James?
So I got a website. It is called New Discourses, and it's located at newdiscourses.com. You'll find all my podcasts, all my articles, links to all the books, lots of videos, all posted up there on that website. It's actually, I've done like 600 podcasts or something now, so there's a whole bunch of material waiting for you. And so
this is really good, James. I'm reading this one about, it's like 89 pages as it printed off, but it's
long.
The woke rights elitist coup, the woke rights elitist coup inside the MAGA civil war. There is a civil war taking place in MAGA. It is not from without, it is from within. And it's the people that we have seen over the past 8 years, and we would have said, okay, that person is on our side of the aisle. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Donald Trump takes office in January. And all of a sudden, we're having conversations we've never had before, like the N word is now cool. Let's use it. We're talking about, it's a white takeover, white replacement theory. It's like stupid stuff. Like, what are you people talking about? It's values that are being taken over, right? Not color, but nonetheless, you begin to, it's all about Macron. It's all about, now it's Charlie Kirk. What role do you think Charlie Kirk prior to his death? And I mean, even every time I think about it, it's so disturbing to me. But probably what's equally disturbing to me is how quickly it seems we've all moved right past what happened to Charlie Kirk. All of a sudden it's being sanitized, it's on bumper stickers and t-shirts, and vote like Charlie votes is just seems so sterile all of a sudden. Do you have any insight on what's happening with all of that?
Well, part of that, I think, is that just everything moves so fast now that you just can't keep up. You can't hold on to anything. And I think that that's part of the nature of the kind of political warfare environment that we're in is, every 2 or 3 days there's some new drama, some new catastrophe, some new something. But a lot of the time, if you actually look back to September 10th when Charlie was assassinated, if you look back, you can see pretty clearly how much of the drama is generated by a very small number of characters who are, in many cases, actually spinning wild and crazy conspiracies about Charlie's death itself. Candace Owens is probably leading on that. Tucker Carlson came out publicly and defended her on that today, and has been on and off. Other people have been defending her or criticizing her. So now we have to fight about this, and it's all just gotten so contaminated with all these icky conspiracy theories and people fighting over it, and everybody's moved. Tucker Carlson throws up Nick Fuentes, the Heritage Foundation defends it from its president. All these other things capture our attention so quickly, one after another. We can't hold on to building kind of off of that legacy that Charlie had left us, the shock of what had happened when he was shot. And instead, we're having to fight over all of this other stuff. And I'm going to tell you, Kathy, I don't think this is happening because people can't get their bearings, and it's just what happens when people get their brains scrambled. I think, or they get trauma or they get shocked. I think that what we're seeing is something very deliberate. I think this thing is being pushed on MAGA to keep us distracted, to keep us from being focused, to undermine Turning Point USA and its potential legacy, or to take it over, the same exact thing that we're talking about with MAGA overall, the Republican Party overall. I think it's deliberate. So I think that we see the sowing of all these narratives about Charlie's death. Oh, maybe his security team did it. Maybe it was Erica was behind it. Maybe it was
horrible.
Everybody who's ever known him. It's just, I think it's deliberate.
To me.
I think it's deliberate in order to take it away from us.
Oh, yes. I absolutely believe this is deliberate. That's what I'm saying. I can't believe how quickly we've moved right past it and how sterile it's become already. As if it's something that happened 10 years ago. This just happened, and it should be devastating, and we should be talking about it, and we should be beating the left over the head with this violence, and specifically violence among transgender, and the reason why we need to stop this foolishness, right? But instead, it's just become all about, get out the vote and selling t-shirts. I don't know. It just feels very weird and very intentional, and a layer of evil about it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
That we can't even mourn because we're like, who did it? Who shot John? It's just crazy to me. Let's just do a quick recap because we've said a lot. Yeah. One, is there really a civil war taking place in MAGA?
Well, yes, there is. But the way that it has to be understood is that there's been a sleeper cell that's been embedded within MAGA all the way back to the alt-right before President Trump's first term, that at least since Charlottesville, which was in 2017, the first year of Trump's first term, has been playing along and playing nice with the rest of MAGA and biding its time. So then when Trump got elected the second time, they've come out of their shell. And what's the Civil War is that the mainstream conservatives, the mainstream MAGA, notice this and they say, no, we're not compromising our values to go with your radical agenda. We're glad you worked with us. We're glad you voted with us. We wish you would get your head on straight and do it again, but we're not going to go with you into these radical values. And so the Civil War is actually that there has been a splinter of MAGA, or a sleeper cell within MAGA, that has sprung a trap on us now that President Trump's in office a second time, and people are saying no. So it's not that there's just two sides that are fighting. There's one side that's doing something that it shouldn't be doing against President Trump and his agenda, against MAGA, against the Republican Party and the conservative movement that aren't even conservative. And then people have noticed and are saying, no, we're not going to go along with this. We're absolutely not. And then they call that a war, as though both sides are equally culpable in this, which is not the case.
It is not the case whatsoever, but it has risen from, oh, look at those elephants fighting, to wait a minute, the grass is getting trampled. We're not focused on the things we should be focused on. Donald Trump has, I mean, he's done a lot of executive orders, but the House and the Senate has done essentially very little to nothing. Why is it that we have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and there's no conversation about securing our elections? Why is it that the Senate Republicans have decided to not confirm Donald Trump's appointees? Like, this is just ridiculous, and we need these things to happen so that we can fix the structural damage that has been done. So when Donald Trump is out of office, we're not going right back to where we started, but what was the point of all of this, of fighting for the past 8 years to get this man back in office, if we don't begin to change some of the structural issues in our nation so that we can, start off anew, hopefully in 2028? And yet we're not focused on those things, because we're focused on is Macron's wife a man or a woman? I mean, I don't care. Why do I care? We're focused on, things that we shouldn't really be talking about. Is Nick Fuentes as horrible as people think he is? Why should I even care, right? Like, what are we talking about? But there's a lot of energy being placed on this, and it's a lot of effort. I mean, I'm watching people talk on our side of the aisle talk down about Israel. Like, when has that become our issue? But it is. So we have to talk about these things. We have to put a light on it. Let me also say, you said there are 3 tiers of MAGA. What are they?
Elite MAGA, that's the people who basically go on each other's shows. And then you've got middle MAGA, that's people like us that are doing all the work. And then you've got normie MAGA, that's the people that show up and support and come to the rallies and vote for President Trump and buy the gear. But they're not politically engaged themselves directly, so good for them. But they're not doing the hard political work, and they're not living the kind of fancy high politics life that the elites get to live.
Right. Okay. And you said there are 4 stages to this revolutionary coup. You said elite MAGA is trying to take over all of MAGA. And right. You said there are 4 stages of this revolutionary coup. You said the first stage has already been wrapped. They got it. They've conquered the first stage. Now they're on to the second stage. What is the first stage? What is the second stage? Let's
see if I remember. But the point is this is a power consolidation model.
Yes.
So they took over the elites of MAGA first. They made it so
that was the first stage.
That's stage 1. It's the MAGA. The elite MAGA was taken over by the radical splinter to make sure that they're on the same page. The next stage is going to be to try to take over MAGA at large, I think. Is that what I said?
Yes.
That's
it's
right.
The consolidation of MAGA under their rule and organization. And in order to do that, they have to subdue middle MAGA, which will be me, which would be you.
That's right.
And I'm willing to die on this hill on the values that I have.
A whole bunch of us are.
It is right. A lot of middle MAGA is right. So what do they have planned up their sleeves to dominate us? I think that should cause everyone to look at these people differently when they're coming out here talking about Macron's wife or talking to Nick Fuentes. Not that you can't talk to Nick Fuentes. Talk to Nick Fuentes. But give Nick Fuentes that Ted Cruz treatment. I love that interview with Ted Cruz. I thought it was perfect. And then I looked at the Nick Fuentes interview and I'm like, what kind of, singing me softly kind of interview is this? Like, this is crazy. Okay. So I think we've done an overview of this. The elitist capture chief tool is seduction. It is, don't you want to be with the cool kids?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, then we're going to ostracize you. We're going to call you names. We're going to say you're weird and you're stinky and your mama doesn't love your daddy. So it's very seductive. I'm going to give you my last minute.
Yeah, that's the dynamic. And the goal for them is to derail the MAGA and Trump agenda during this term. Maybe throw the game off to the Democrats if they can't steal the power for maybe through J.D. Vance or whoever they have planned. Maybe they're going to give us Democrats again in 28. They say this sometimes, and we're going to get Democrats for 4 years. We all know the Democrats are going to punish us for Trump's second term, and it's going to be real ugly. And then their goal is to get a proper right-wing lunatic like a Franco or a Hitler or Mussolini elected in 2032.
Who do you think that would be today? Like, who is that person today?
I do not have the slightest guess, but all their cards, and he doesn't present that way, but all their cards are very heavily put on J.D. Vance right now. They defend J.D. Vance. They make it all about J.D. Vance all the time. So they see him as their next vehicle, as far as I can tell.
But I don't think he's radical or a tyrant.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. But anyway, there you have it, folks. James, I would love to have you back on. This is so riveting. I'm gonna continue reading your report. It is the woke rights elitist coup inside the MAGA Civil War. You've been listening to Kathy Barnette with my guest James Lindsay. Go and find us out there on Twitter. And James, what's your website again?
newdiscourses.com, and I'm at Conceptual James on Twitter.
Blessings. You guys take care. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.